All right, we're going live. The going live song. We are live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another delicious episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Over Sharon Show. What's up, Sharon? How are
Mmm,
you today?
tasty.
Tasty goodness. Yeah, sometimes some of the things we say taste a little, it's like you got to swallow and you're like, oh no, but overall, it's delicious. Right?
Oh, that's silly.
Yeah, it's the hard truths that sometimes we talk about on this show. But like we always just say, we were preaching to the choir.
Well,
So
that reminds me, that's true. That reminds me of something in the Bible that says like I can't remember who said it, if it was Paul or another prophet, like a prophet who said like, or maybe it was a prophet Elijah or something who said like he took the thing that God gave him and he swallowed it and it was sweet to the taste, but it was bitter in his belly or something like that. I can't remember if I'm saying it right or if I swapped it, but that's what it reminds me of when you said that.
yeah, there's another saying. Oh, maybe it'll come to me. That's like that as well. Because it's these bitter truths or whatever. But uh, if it comes to me, I'll remember it. I could read today's quote though. That's what I could do.
Yes, please do.
I could do that.
As I shuffle this golden Art Nouveau deck.
All right, today's quote, if I could find it. Here we go.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's weird that when I share things, my compute for some reason it puts another window in front of whatever I share.
That's annoying.
Silly. Okay, the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. So says the Kabbalion.
AKA William Walker Atkinson, who actually used the pen name of the three initiates to write the Kybalion, which is just a Kybalion is kind of a summary of the Hermetic principles. I've been looking into like Hermetic stuff lately just because of the books I'm reading. It just happens, like we say, coincidentally, but it's not a coincidence, right?
There are
It's an
no coincidences.
omen, it's a synchronicity, but it's we like to call them omens these days because of this book, The Alchemist. So,
Exactly.
and alchemy is also very hermetic. So we will maybe on the final episode when we like tie things up for this reading and commentary of The Alchemist, we'll probably talk a little bit about alchemy in general and like how the hermetic principles are similar and apply. And we may have an announcement for a new book that we'll be reading and going through, which will be very apropos as well as a follow on to this.
Yeah.
Perhaps it could be the Kybalion itself.
Could it be?
Could
I
it be?
think there's a high chance of it, but you guys will have to stay tuned to find out. I guess, right? So this quote though, I'll bring it back up really quick. It's pretty self-explanatory, I guess, to me, but uh, you know,
Yeah.
I guess it is pretty understandable to most people. And what they're really trying to say is that people, if you don't have the correct, really, worldview or an open mind, you're not going to be able to hear the message that's there. And then also, could it be, do you have to understand symbolism and like a different set of keys and all these things? Like you have to understand that there might be more behind the words than what they're just saying on the surface level. And if that's the case, then your ears are open. And it's funny how it does it backwards. The lips of wisdom are closed. So
Yeah.
also it's like, if you're gonna meet somebody that's a master or whatever, they're not gonna talk to you unless you're open and your ears are open. That's
Unless you're
another
an
way to look at it.
initiate.
Yeah.
Could it be?
And you
Big
can even
ol'
look at it though the way kind of mentioned it with your ears. It reminds me of that verse in Matthew, blessed are you. for your ears are able
Yes.
to hear and your eyes are able to
And
see. So many like wise men and holy men wanted to see what you have and haven't been able to. It really reminds me of that. So it's not like you have to go out looking for some alchemical master or whatever. That's not what we're saying to try to learn your wisdom. It's just that if you get the right worldview, right, and you're looking at the world the right way, there's messages hidden everywhere. There's omens everywhere. Could it be?
yeah. And when Brandon says the right way, it's more about being open-minded.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's the only way.
it's
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. It's not about like, oh, this is we're forcing you to believe that this is the only way. It's more about like keeping your mind open to the possibilities, because do we really know anything? I mean, really, do we really know anything?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, our Father, right? We forgive those who trespass against us. What do they mean exactly? It's these crazy words, and it's funny because every time I see a no trespassing sign, I'm like, I guess they don't forgive those who trespass against them at this place. I at least, all right.
Hey, that's my sign on my, on my front door. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
no, I don't blame you. I'm just, these are usually places like woods, and I'm like, I'd like to walk in there, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen those too.
So we're very fortunate, though. There's a lot of people here who had the foresight to donate their land in this area of Connecticut. A lot of beautiful land that has been put into trusts that you can go. It's like a wildlife sanctuary or whatever, but you can go there and hike. So it's nice because, you see this other areas where they don't do that and they just rip it all down and put condos everywhere. So it's crazy. Anywho,
So,
hard time.
there was there anything else we were gonna say about the Kybalion verse? That's about it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's pretty self-explanatory, really, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
hit that side of it where it's like,
Yeah, I like
it's
it.
up to the person who wants to learn to open their ears, right?
Yeah.
You can't be like, why aren't you giving me the wisdom? I want it. I'm ready.
And then the lips of wisdom will be open to
Yeah,
you
you got to be
if you're
ready.
willing to be open and open to understand. So I did pull a card, and wow, it is a beautiful card. It is card number 2 of the trumps of the major arcana. I've been learning so much about the tarot lately because I've been reading a
Yeah.
book um
Oh,
about the history of the tarot, and this is the high priestess. I believe it was, now I can't remember the name of the guy, but there was a guy who influenced the naming of these cards. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give a little bit of background.
good.
Um, so, um, in learning about the tarot, there was a guy who, back in the day, in the I can't remember, 1800s maybe, or 17, I can't remember. Anyway, he said that, and I think his name was a French guy, called du Gobelin or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he had kind of made this like false claim that the tarot originated in Egypt,
Mhm.
like a long, long time ago, when that isn't actually verifiable. And the actuality is that the tarot really just goes back to um, probably like the 1400s, if I'm not mistaken, or around that time is kind of when it kind of started to come out a little bit, and then it was getting popular in like the 1500s in Italy and France and stuff. They were printing decks when it first started to like be popular to make paper and print stuff. At least that's don't don't
I
quote
t
me. My memory is not fantastic at granular detail. I just remember like generalities. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I sent you a text, but I meant to send it to Elizabeth, so disregard. It has nothing to do with the show.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, go. You keep going, but I have some stuff to say too when you're done about the tarot.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy, and there was a couple, I mean, I think there were other figures who kind of influenced some stuff that was like not necessarily true, but I mean, in the sense that it wasn't verifiable evidence for what they were making claims for. Um, but yes, like there are, I should say, hermetic principles that you can find in the tarot. And the hermetic principles do allegedly come from Egypt. Um, because in the times of um the transition from the Egyptian influence in Alexandria and at those times, and I can't remember dates, terrible at that.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, but they were translating all these hermetic principles into um I guess Greek and maybe Latin. I don't know if Latin, but anyway, they were using the information from the Egyptians in order to kind of inform their own view. And they were like, oh, this guy Thoth, that was the Egyptian god or whatever. And by the way, God really just means enlightened one. It's like a saint for Christians or like a Buddha for Buddhists. It's just someone who has been enlightened. So this was what Thoth had become. He had become an enlightened being. And he was sharing all this information, which today we call the Hermetica, which are all these like Hermetic principles. And the reason is called Hermetics because Thoth and the Greek Hermes were merged because the Greeks were learning about Thoth and they're like, oh, he's like our god Hermes. So we're going to call him um, Hermes. But this guy Thoth was actually called thrice great. So we're going to just use this terminology Hermes Trismegistus to refer to Thoth. So Thoth, Hermes, Trismegistus, same guy. They're allegedly the originators of this Hermetica, all these concepts, including the Kybalion. So anyway, that's like the background to what I was going to say about these cards. This high priestess would have been called the popess or like the
Ah,
woman figure of the pope, which was then called hierophant because at some point when they thought, oh, this came from Egypt, we're going to name, and because all these just came about over time, like these archetypes were named in France, in Italy, in France, and they were mostly Italian, I think is where it originally came from. And they were naming these guys, these little archetype people, or the cards. And this one was named Popess. And then the Hierophant card number 5 was actually named the Pope. But some guy, and I forgot his name, um, renamed them. And then Rider Waite, not Rider Waite, because Rider was just the publisher. So
AE Weight.
Waite Smith or Coleman or whatever her name was,
It
Pamela
was
Coleman
AE
Smith.
Weight and Pamela Coleman Smith.
Okay, yeah. So Waite Smith, that's what they call the deck these days, Waite Smith, to honor the actual artist, Pamela Coleman Smith. So they just kept, for whatever reason, they kept those names of Hierophant and High Priestess instead of the names that they had before, which were very like kind of Catholic oriented. So anyway, this would have been the Popess. This would have been the woman version of the Pope. But yes, this is a beautiful, beautiful card.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
High
And
Priestess is a great card. Uh,
indeed.
Thumbs is making an appearance. Thumper.
So what can you tell us about
Well, I can tell you, especially in regards to what we're going to be talking about today, the Alchemist, that the High Priestess is a really important card. It represents the feminine energy, and a lot of times, especially for men, we have these wounds And I feel like we have issues with the feminine because of it. We get like uh, intimacy issues or whatever, it could express in so many different ways. And I think that tapping in correctly and using that feminine, and for men, it's kind of like the dark side. It's your shadow,
Your
really. It's
anima.
your anima. This is what this is representing, this high priestess. And you see the lady, and behind her, there's a shroud. And what's behind it are the secrets. It's the mystery. So it's like the way in is through. You see the shroud, and there's pomegranates on there in the background. So behind her, there's like a curtain, and you have the two pillars. And behind all that is where the mysteries are. So you have to figure out a way to get in touch with your, creative, feminine, your shadow, your anima, and the mysteries will be revealed, as type of thing. So that's what I could say, I guess, in the
There's even a moon at the bottom there to show like the shadow, right? That's the shadow side.
yeah, the moon, the feminine energy of the moon. And when you think about alchemy, that's all what we're doing here, right? We're turning our everyday experiences into gold. We're turning our mundane life that seems so boring and pointless. And what are we doing here
The
even?
lead that weighs us down.
Yeah, you turn it into gold. So that's really one of the ways, especially for men and women too. These energies are inside everybody and they're important. I mean, it's a symbolic thing, but it does represent some part of us. And I feel like a lot of times, especially in the society, the way we're raised, we get a lot of abandonment issues, and we develop or certain people will develop a negative relationship, or kind of an imbalanced relationship. How about we say it that way? An unbalanced relationship. So it's really just about balancing, because it's not that the feminine is the answer. It's more about, for me anyway, looking into that so that I can balance it out and then properly have the masculine and feminine in their places. Yeah. So it's a good card for this.
Yeah. Well,
Well, well, well.
what do you say about getting back into The Alchemist?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So, if you guys are new to our show, we are covering The Alchemist today. Thank you. Welcome, by the way. And we're going to be reading through it and giving commentary. So, if you want to, you can always go back. There's an actual playlist for this. But this is our third episode in the playlist. So, check it out. We left off right here last time when we were talking about Africa. So, basically, to sum it all up, there's there's a shepherd boy, and he has a really cool set of circumstances happen to call them omens, like synchronicities. And because of it, he met this man, and he's going to sell all his sheep and try to follow his dream, which the dream he's having is telling him that if he goes close to the pyramids, he will find his treasure. So he's in Spain now. He's got to get to Africa.
Yeah. And he just met a man who called himself Melchizedek, the king of Salem, which is peace, the king of peace. And Melchizedek means the king of Zadok, which is, what did I say it was again? I always forget.
Zadok.
Yeah, Zedek, Zadok.
I for justice maybe or no?
Yes,
Was it?
I think it was because we had pulled the justice card.
It was something about fairness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the king of righteousness, which is justice.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
There you
yes.
go.
Thank you.
Righteousness.
I always forget. I always to look it up. But so yeah, he had just met him, and that man gave him a couple of stones, a cup from his breastplate, which was the Urim and Thummim, which is actually the priest's breastplate in the Bible, in the Old Testament. They wore these beautiful breastplates that had 12 stones, 12 different colored stones that represented different things. So, and they were kind of meant to be divinatory, if one can say it that way. So, yes, they were using a kind of tarot and crystals in the Bible. So,
Oh yeah.
see? See? Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well,
he just
12,
gave him
there's 12 houses. I mean, sorry, there's
yes.
12,
Houses of the zodiac.
yeah,
There's
12
and there's 12
signs.
disciples and there's 12 tribes of Judah, right?
Oh,
Or
Jesus.
Israel or whatever. So anyway,
Yeah,
he had
the
just
that
met this
12
man.
number and then 12 inches in a foot, 12 months in a year, there's
Hmm. It just goes on
and
and
on we go. Right? As
on.
who would say that? Michael Desarion. And on we go.
So he's just met the man, and the man has sent him off on his personal legend, as it's called. And the boy has just gotten on a ship and he's leaving to find his personal legend.
Amazing.
All right. You okay over there?
Yeah, I'm good. I just my kitty issues, it's like they're like kids. They
Close the
want to go in, they want to
door.
go out. They want to go in. So, um, you want me to start reading?
Sure.
Okay. How strange
Unless you have
Africa, huh?
nothing.
Oh. How strange Africa is, thought the boy. He was sitting in a bar very much like the other bars he had seen along the narrow streets of Tangier. Some men were smoking from a gigantic pipe that they passed from one to the other. In a few hours, he had seen men walking hand in hand, women with their faces covered, and priests that climbed to the tops of towers enchanted, as everyone around him went to their knees and placed their foreheads on the ground. A practice of infidels, he said to himself. Yeah, see, this is his point of view right now. As a child in church, he had always looked at the image of Saint Santiago Matamoros on his white horse, his sword unsheathed, and figures such as these kneeling at his feet. The boy felt ill and terribly alone. The infidels had an evil look about them. Besides this, in the rush of his travels, he had forgotten a detail. Just one detail, which could keep him from his treasure for a long time. Only Arabic was spoken in this country. Oh.
Mm.
Oops. Oh, I just clicked on the wrong thing. Are we still sharing? No, we're
No.
not. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. My mouse must have been just right on the stop share button. Let's see. Okay, so this country. The owner of the bar approached him, and the boy pointed to a drink that had been served at the next table. It turned out to be a bitter tea. The boy preferred wine.
Hmm.
Aha. But he didn't need to worry about that right now. What he had to be concerned about was his treasure and how he was going to go about getting it. The sale of his sheep had left him with enough money in his pouch, and the boy knew that in money there was magic. Whoever has money is never really alone. Before long, maybe in just a few days, he would be at the pyramids. An old man with a breastplate of gold wouldn't have lied just to acquire 6 sheep. Would he have? Ah. The old man had spoken about the signs and omens. As the boy was crossing the strait, he had thought about omens. Yes, the old man had known what he was talking about. Yes, the old man had known what he was talking about. During the time the boy had spent in the fields of Andalusia, he had become used to learning which path he should take by observing the ground and the sky. He had discovered that the presence of a certain bird meant that a snake was nearby, and that a certain shrub was a sign there was water in the area. The sheep had taught him that. If God leads sheep so well, will he also lead a man? He thought, and that made him feel better. The tea seemed less better. I like this because you get this inner dialogue, right? And this reminds me of what you say, doesn't God do the birds have to worry about
Yeah.
clothes? Doesn't,
Doesn't he feed the birds and stuff? Yeah, totally.
and you see
By
here
the
how,
way, I was just going to quickly say you were breaking up just a tad earlier. But
oh,
anyway,
okay.
go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, Also, I was going to say that it's good to see how he's starting to depend on himself here. He's all alone. He's not freaking out. Like, he doesn't have to go on Instagram and, like, he's talking to himself here, really. He's like, if God leads sheep so well, he'll also lead a man.
He's contemplating. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are you? He heard a voice ask him in Spanish. The boy was relieved. He was thinking about omens, and someone had appeared. How come you speak Spanish? He asked. The new arrival was a young man, excuse me, in Western dress, but the color of his skin suggested he was from this city. He was about the same age and height as the boy. Almost everyone here speaks Spanish. We're only 2 hours from Spain. Sit down and let me treat you to something, the boy said the boy, and ask for a glass of wine for me. Sit down and let me treat you to something, said the boy, and ask for a glass of wine for me. I hate this tea. There is no wine in this country, the young man said. The religion here forbids it.
Mm-hmm.
The boy told him then that he needed to get to the pyramids. He almost began to tell about his treasure, but decided not to do so. If he did, it was possible that the Arab would want a part of it as payment for taking him there. He remembered what the old man had said about offering something you didn't even have yet. Hang on one second.
You want
You
me to
are
take over?
here, but Kitty's joining the show. Okay. Let's see. So,
Do you want me to read?
like, yeah, you go ahead if you want. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'd like you to take me there if you can. I can pay you to serve as my guide. Do you have any idea how to get there? The newcomer asked. The boy noticed that the owner of the bar stood nearby, listening attentively to their conversation. He felt uneasy at the man's presence, but he had found a guide and didn't want to miss out on an opportunity. You have to cross the entire Sahara Desert, said the young man. And to do that, you need money. I need to know whether you have enough. The boy thought it a strange question, but he trusted in the old man who had said that when you really want something, the universe always conspires in your favor. He took his money from his pouch and showed it to the young man. The owner of the bar came over and looked as well. The two men exchanged some words in Arabic, and the bar owner seemed irritated. Let's get out of here, said the new arrival. He wants us to leave. The boy was relieved. He got up to pay the bill, but the owner grabbed him and began to speak to him in an angry stream of words. The boy was strong and wanted to retaliate, but he was in a foreign country. His new friend pushed the owner aside and pulled the boy outside with him. He wanted your money, he said. Tangier is not like the rest of Africa. This is a port, and every port has its thieves. The boy trusted his new friend. He had helped him out in a dangerous situation. He took out his money and counted it. We could get to the pyramids by tomorrow, said the other, taking the money, but I have to buy 2 camels. They walked together through the narrow streets of Tangier. Everywhere there were stalls with items for sale. They reached the center of a large plaza where the market was held. There were thousands of people there arguing, selling, and buying. Vegetables for sale amongst daggers and carpets displayed alongside tobacco. But the boy never took his eye off his new friend. After all, he had all his money. He thought about asking him to give it back, but decided that would be unfriendly. He knew nothing about the customs of the strange land he was in. I'll just watch him, he said to himself. He knew he was stronger than his friend. Suddenly, there in the midst of all that confusion, he saw the most beautiful sword he had ever seen. The scabbard was embossed in silver, and the handle was black and encrusted with precious stones. The boy promised himself that when he returned from Egypt, he would buy that sword. Ask the owner of that stall how much the sword costs, he said to his friend. Then he realized that he had been distracted for a few moments looking at the sword. His heart squeezed as if his chest had suddenly compressed it. He was afraid to look around because he knew what he would find. He continued to look at the beautiful sword for a bit longer until he summoned the courage to turn around.
So, yeah, I don't know, everybody. I think people can see where this is going.
Yeah.
All right.
All around him was the market with people coming and going, shouting and buying, and the aroma of strange foods. But nowhere could he find his new companion. We can probably stop right there
Yeah. Okay.
and chat about like what just happened.
Yeah. What did just happen, huh? So he just got took. And it's funny
Mhm.
because the old man, I think, told him to watch the signs, right? And to not ask for other people's help because he kind of taught him that lesson. He's like, the old man asked him for a tenth of his sheep or whatever, a percentage of his sheep, and and he said to him, he's like, "This is because you asked for my help. I have to take this." And he also gave him those divination stones to try to figure out something for himself.
Yeah, which he could. Yeah, I didn't even think of this, but he could have used him at that kind of at that moment. He could have been more careful with his relationship with that guy. And the guy was like, "Oh, everybody speaks Spanish around here," but yet he was the only one speaking Spanish. Like the Arab guy that was the bar owner wasn't speaking Spanish. Like, why didn't he speak Spanish to him? Like that could have been a clue that the guy was lying to him,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Or healthily exaggerating. And this also reminds me of, it's like a little lesson I think he put in here in the journey because when you start on this journey, I mean, there's really two lessons here, and we'll get to the second one, which is you never know what's going to happen, right? Something that seems like a disaster may lead to something even better. But I
Yeah.
think the other lesson, the first lesson here, is that when we start to get into synchronicities, start to happen, that it's not always a good thing. You don't, if you're going to look for someone else's help along the way, this might happen. You might get burnt. And again, it's not like you don't ask for people for help and all that stuff, but in the situation of the story, he's in a place, it's kind of like you're on the internet and you just found out about all this self-help and stuff. So you just find some guru on YouTube and hire him or whatever, and do everything that he says. This is kind of what it reminds me of. It's like there's a lot of people out there that know how to speak the language and talk the talk, but at the end of the day, really, at the end of the day, it's up to you, I feel.
Yeah, you
Right?
like the guy should have been more careful. He was in a strange place. He shouldn't just trust anybody just because. And the thing was like he showed him his money and he didn't have to do that. He could have just said, "Look, if you need to see my money, like then, I don't need your help. You know, if you can trust that I can provide for our journey, then you can help me. But if not,
That's
buy."
right.
Or like I hold the money, I will buy the camels. You just tell me where we're going to buy the camels and I will hold the money, you know?
Yeah, don't worry about being rude.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They rely on
Exactly.
that, right? People
Mhm.
rely on that. It's scammers. I would have been like, you want to see my money? You see with your eyes, not with your hands. Remember that? I want to
Yeah.
see that. See
Mhm.
with your eyes. Like you could look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see. Is this the end? Is
Yeah.
this a complete disaster? We'll see. And that's really the second lesson is to when things like that happen, to try to
You
look
got
for
the
the
bright
lessons and
side.
what's next and all
Mhm.
that stuff, right? Instead of being in despair about it. All right,
Exactly. Shall I keep reading or did you want to read?
I can read a little. Let's see. The boy wanted to believe that his friend had simply become separated from him by accident. He decided to stay right there and await his return. As he waited, a priest climbed to the top of a nearby tower and began his chant. Everyone in the market fell to their knees, touched their foreheads to the ground, and took up the chant. Then, like a colony of worker ants, they dismantled their stalls and left.
Hmm.
It's like such a sign, right? Like he gets robbed and then everything just goes away. It reminds me of a movie or like a cartoon or something.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's so funny. Guess we know what closing time is. There's nobody there running in last minute to try to get something right now. We're closed.
Closing time.
Yeah, exactly. The sun began its departure as well. The boy watched it through its trajectory for some time until it was hidden behind white houses surrounding the plaza. He recalled when the sun had risen that morning, he was on another continent, still a shepherd with 60 sheep and looking forward to meeting with a girl. That morning, he had known everything was going to happen. That morning, he had known everything that was going to happen to him as he walked through the familiar fields. But now, as the sun began to set, he was in a different country, a stranger in a strange land where he couldn't even speak the language. He was no longer a shepherd, and he had nothing, and not even the money to return to start everything over. All this
Um,
happened between sunrise and sunset, the boy thought. He was feeling sorry for himself and lamenting the fact that his life could have changed so suddenly and so drastically. He was so ashamed that he wanted to cry. He had never even wept in front of his own sheep, but the marketplace was empty and he was far from home, so he wept. He wept because God was unfair and because this was the way God repaid those who believed in their dreams.
Can we stop there?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say you were breaking up in and out as well, so
Oh
maybe I'll
no.
read a little bit
Yeah, go ahead. You can
more.
read a little bit.
But also it's a good place to stop because he's upset, right? And he's blaming God at this point, you know. It's like, God, it's your fault. You
And the
made things.
tears, right?
Hmm?
The tears, like he's crying. It just
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of letting go and
Mm-hmm.
releasing. And
Mm-hmm.
this, I feel like he's crying for, and is releasing his old point of view, his on the world, which was, a shepherd being carefree and doing whatever he wants. Now he's again like the stranger in a strange land, so he isn't ready to accept it yet.
New beginnings, you
Yeah,
know?
like the death
It's
card.
new, yeah. New beginnings are tough and you maybe you have to surrender, like you said, you have to shed some tears and let go.
Excuse me, this is a great way to illustrate the death card. All this stuff that just happened to him is a good representation, you know. But let's see what happens. Does he stay in despair? Does he go back to Spain? Does he swim back over? All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
When I had my sheep, I was happy, and I made those around me happy. People saw me coming and it welcomed me, he thought. But now I'm sad and alone. I'm going to become bitter and distrustful of people because one person betrayed me. I'm going to hate those who have found their treasure because I've never found mine. And I'm going to hold on to what little I have because too insignificant to conquer the world. This is
Mm.
huge.
This negative self-talk.
That it not only is it negative, yes, you're right. It is negative self-talk, and you could see where it starts and how many people are stuck in that pattern and that trap of not, following their dharma or whatever, just like doing what they have to do, getting a job, just
They just want to go back to where they were because where they think they are is like worse than where they were.
the comfort. They're seeking comfort, and this is not a realm of comfort, let me tell you what. I mean, you could sure find some good comfort and good times and stuff in here, but
Southern comfort.
yeah. Yeah, it's way
Just
down
kidding.
south. Like hell. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna comfort you down here. All right. So let's see. I'll bring it back up. All right, maybe if I stop my video too while I'm reading, it'll help. Oops. All right. Yeah, so I like that because he's setting it all up, right? He's like, I'm going to hate those who found their treasure. So he already knows, and most people, I think this is unconscious for them. They don't realize it,
Hmm.
and it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But he's actually pointing it out, so I think that's cool. So I'm gonna start here. He opened his pouch to see what was left of his possessions. Maybe there was a bit left of the sandwich he had eaten on the ship, but all he had found was the heavy book, his jacket, and the 2 stones the old man had given him. As he looked at the stones, he felt relieved for some reason. He had exchanged 6 sheep for 2 precious stones that had been taken from a gold breastplate. He could sell the stones and buy a return ticket. But this time I'll be smarter, the boy thought, removing them from the pouch so he could put them in his pocket. This was a port town, and the only truthful thing his friend had told him was port towns are full of thieves. Yeah, and I wanted to
Mm.
say that when we were reading it, but that guy was totally like just projecting, right? He's like, oh,
Hmm.
this place is full of thieves, like, all right,
Yeah.
thanks. Now he understood why the owner of the bar had been so upset. He was trying to tell him not to trust the man. And this is another things aren't always how they appear.
As they
Things aren't
appear.
always what they seem, right? You always got to like take. That's why the turtle beats the hare, because the turtle slow and steady takes his time. He did more
Hmm.
of a hare movement. He's like, all right, let's just go, man, let's go.
Hmm.
Which, it's okay sometimes. I'm like everyone else. I see the world in terms of what I'd like to see happen, not what actually does. That is huge too. All these nuggets of truth, right? This is what
Mm.
happens. He's not saying, so he's not pointing the finger at everybody. He's just saying this is how most people see the world. They would like what they would like to see happen, not what actually does. So that's why they suffer also. That's why
Mm-hmm.
people suffer.
You
He
create
ran,
your
or
reality.
yeah, that's why we all suffer, right? Because whatever suffering is just not us being able to accept something, I think. He ran his fingers slowly over the stones, sensing their temperature and feeling their surfaces. They were his treasure. Just handling them made him feel better. They reminded him of the old man. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it, he had said. The boy was trying to understand the truth of what the old man had said. There he was in the empty marketplace without a cent to his name and with no sheep to guard through the night. But the stones were proof that he had met with a king who knew the boy's past. They're called Urim and Thummim, and they can help you to read the omens. The boy put the stones back in the pouch and decided to do an experiment. The old man had said to ask very clear questions, and to do that, the boy had to know what he wanted. So he asked if the old man's blessing was still with him. He took out one of the stones. It was yes. Am I going to find my treasure? He asked. He stuck his hand in the pouch and felt around for one of the stones. As he did that, both of them pushed through a hole in the pouch and fell to the ground. The boy had never even noticed that there was a hole in his pouch. He knelt down to find Urim and Thummim and put them back in the pouch. But as he saw them lying there on the ground, another phrase came to his mind. Learn to recognize omens and follow them, the old king had said. An omen, the boy smiled to himself. He picked up the two stones and put them back in his pouch. He didn't consider mending the hole. The stones could fall out through it any time they wanted. He had learned that there was certain things one shouldn't ask about, so as not to flee from one's own personal legend, right? Because if he asked this, am I gonna do it? It's like, well, it's up
Yeah.
to you. I don't know. Are you gonna? The Rock's like, are you?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there we go. So, I promised that
You
I would
could
make my own
apply that to
decision.
the tarot cards too. Like,
Yes, exactly. What are you asking your tarot cards? Some of those questions you're asking, you can answer yourselves. But I think that's what we always start to realize, and that's
yeah.
probably why some of us use tarot and then start using it less and all that.
Yeah, not use
There
it
are
very
omens
often.
everywhere, really.
Yeah.
What's that?
And we don't like some of us don't have to use it very often.
Yeah, and then it's like if you go with the feelings. But for sure. All right, so but the stones had told him the old man was still with him, and that made him feel more confident. He looked around at the empty plaza again, feeling less desperate than before. This wasn't a strange place, it was a new one.
Mm.
After all, what he had always wanted was just that, to know new places. Even if he never got to the pyramids, he had already traveled farther than any shepherd he knew. So here you go again. This guy, he's basically confronting self-talk. He's doing what we talk about all the time, where it's just that little voice in your head, that nagging little voice that's just telling you, "Oh, look what happened. Look what you did. You're in despair. You're terrible. You lost all your money, whatever happened." And now he's looking at the positive, looking at the other side, right? He's going back. He's like, "I have these stones. They were given to me by this magical man that knew things about me." So right now he's just building himself back up. It's like that contemplation that Sharon was talking about. It's just that positive self-talk, focusing on the positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Um. Oh, if they only knew how different the things are just 2 hours by from where they are, he thought. Although his new world at the moment was just an empty marketplace, he had already seen it when it was teeming with life, and he would never forget it. He remembered the sword. It hurt him a bit to think about it, but he had never seen one like it before. As he mused about these things, he realized that he had to choose between thinking of himself as the poor victim of a thief and as an adventurer. He mused about things like these. He realized that he had to choose between thinking of himself as the poor victim of a thief and as an adventurer in the quest of his treasure. I was thinking or would probably go better than and, but that's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. That's all right,
For
Paul. We'll let you go. We'll let that one go. No, I'm just kidding.
it wasn't even him, probably.
No, it probably
Or
wasn't him.
may who knows? We
Well,
don't
he
know what
probably
the
wrote it in
yeah, we don't
Portuguese.
know what the
Yeah.
Portuguese says, if it says and or. Oh, but he had to choose between that and the other thing. That's why. Choose between this and that.
And that. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
But or would work as well.
You're right. I'm an adventurer looking for treasure, he said to himself. See, there it is. So, he realizes he has a choice. He could be a poor victim, right? Or an adventurer in quest of his treasure. And that's the choice that we have. Here, I'm gonna end this so we can bring our videos back up too. There it is.
Your
Oh
video.
yeah. Yeah,
There
they
you
keep
are.
changing. So, that's the real choice that we all face in life, right? Is every moment something happens to us, or anytime something happens to us, are we a victim or are we an adventurer? This is what we freaking talk about all the time on this show. Like, and listen, it's not like Sharon and I have mastered this shit, like we're
We're
both
preaching
we
to the choir.
yeah, we've definitely, I can say for myself, I find myself in these situations, but you know, something happens to you and you react, you think you're a victim, and from there there's all these behaviors you can engage in. But what we're talking about is you could still feel like a victim, even feel it, but then there's this space, you could stop, get in the present moment, realize what's going on, focus on the positive things, look around. And that's kind of what he's doing, right? He's giving himself this positive self-talk. So that's really the key, crucial part. And that's really, I think, what meditation is about. Because when you meditate, it's like practicing to do this. So then you realize when you're just caught in thought and stuff, and you could kind of just let it go. And hey, sometimes it comes right back. It'll just come back, come back. You just keep letting it go and focus on other stuff. But yeah, that's why I just wanted to talk about that because it really is like it's a little throwaway line, but he's just basically talking himself all by himself back into his quest and not giving up. And that's what it's all about. Like comedy, I did stand up comedy, and people would say that, oh, how do you become famous? It's like, well, what I saw was you either quit or you're a comedian. Like you just either keep doing it and you make it your lifestyle, or you just quit. And that's what a lot of people said too. They're like, there's no brain science to it. You just keep doing it and keep doing it until you get good, or you quit. And that's really what life is like in any degree. You try something and maybe it's not for you, whatever it is you try. But if you knew, like before that, you have no idea, right? So say the safe route is to just go get a 9 to 5 job and you go do that and everything seems okay, but you still have, you feel like the shepherd in our story, right? There's something still missing. If you decide you want to go try something else and you do it, and then you do it and you hate it, you could stop that and go back to your 9 to 5, and you could say to yourself, you know what? I tried it and it sucks. At least I know, right? Like,
Right.
so
Follow
yeah.
your joy like at every
Yeah.
step.
And that's
Like,
what happens sometimes. When you follow your joy, it'll bring you to something you think that's the thing, and you do it, and then you're like, I don't know, this kind of sucks. But because you did that, you met somebody else, and it brought you to like this is what we're talking about. This realm is so complicated. Our tiny perspective can't always grasp it, right? We have to do it through like metaphors and stuff. But
yeah.
that's what we're saying. You never know what can happen. One, what do they say? One door closes, another one's open, or something like that. It's like one of
Yeah.
those.
I was also thinking, what, like, is he following the alchemical process itself, right? Throughout this
Yeah.
book,
Oh,
right? Like, because he is the process, right? He's the hero's journey. He's going from the lead to the gold, right? Because finding the I'm just spitballing right here right now. I didn't even think about this until just now. But like he's on that path of lead to gold. And what is he looking for? His personal legend, his personal treasure, his treasure, right? Gold treasure. Um,
yeah. That's a great
Lead to gold.
observation. And then also, what do we see? It's like this. So, people think like, oh, your life sucks. Then you have the spiritual awakening. Here, let me, here we go. my life sucks. I'm going along, whatever. I had the spiritual awakening. Yay, everything's gonna be great. I'm gonna do great. It's gonna be good, you know. And that's not really what happens here. Let's use my little glass Buddha. We'll use this for our little, right? He's like, oh, it's gonna be great, and then I'm just gonna no, but the spiritual journey is more like this. We found like, yay, whoa, this, yay, whoa, yeah, oh, look at that, right? That's more what it's like. And then it starts as you realize this, and you start to practice this stuff, and it starts to become second nature. Then it more
Ooh.
evens out. But it is like ups and downs, and it could be. So it's not like when you come across this stuff, you're just saved because you have to do the journey yourself. You can't just meet a guru who all of a sudden is going to tell you. That's what everybody wants, right? They want the fix, the pill. They want to be saved
The
by
quick
Jesus and be good.
fix.
They just want to go get baptized and that's it. And maybe it
Brandon,
works for some people.
once
Huh?
saved, always saved.
Exactly. Yeah. Where
I'm
in my
done, y'all. Once
yeah.
saved, always saved.
In my experience, it's more like, whoa, I've been living crazy. Look at this. I'm fixing myself up. I'm so much better than everybody. Look at how shitty everyone else is. You guys are
Splat.
terrible. And then boom, and I'm like, oh shit, I would, and then you're
Spiritual
like, no,
ego
it's not their
splat.
fault. I was looking at it wrong. They can do whatever they want because it's their lives and they need to do what they're doing. Could it be to get over it, like so I got to
Mm,
focus on me,
mm.
and then there's another one like, oh, I think I got it, and then boom, like, so that's why, Oracle of Delphi, the road to certainty is certain ruin or whatever,
Know
right?
thyself as well.
Yeah, know thyself, and the road
That's
to
another
certainty is the
oracle.
road to ruin.
Hmm.
Yeah. and,
Two
and
of the Delphic oracles, whatever.
exactly, and it's so important. It's kind of like when Maharaji says to Ram Dass, love everyone and tell the truth, right? And he's like, well, the truth is I hate everybody, right? He's just looking at it wrong. But this is like know yourself, but then also certainty is the road to ruin. So as you get to know yourself, there's nothing certain.
Hmm.
Everything's changeable, right? Whatever. So yeah,
Especially your mind,
especially your mind or your ideas, the ones you're held to.
the attachments of your mind, your
Yeah,
thought beliefs.
that's right. The news, all this stuff. Anywho,
Should I
good
keep
stuff
reading?
in here. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll share. Yeah. There's some really, really good stuff in here though. I'm excited about. Oh, I see. Okay. You sent me a message. Perfect. Uh, Here we go. I'll share it up. It's funny how we read for a while and then one little sentence and you're just like, whoa. Like,
Yeah. No, that was a good spot to pause. All right. So he was shaken into wakefulness by someone. He had fallen asleep in the middle of the marketplace, and life in the plaza was about to resume. Looking around, he sought his sheep and then realized that was in a new world. Oh, sorry. And then he realized that he was in a new world. But instead of being saddened, he was happy. See, it's your view, like your view of the world. You
and
can
what?
choose to be happy about that. Go ahead.
100%. I was just gonna say, and this also reminds me of when you do have like like a shift in the way you see the world, right? And but then you go do your normal day and you fall back in some of these patterns and routines, and then you notice it, and but instead of being sad about it, you're just like kind of laughing. You're like, oh yeah, because I think he's describing, he's giving hints to all different steps along this alchemical path. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that's one for sure. Here, let me just take this down because it's like when you go around your family, and they treat you like the old version of you still, and then you kind of have to navigate that, right? And that's what he's doing here. He's like, "Oh, I still thought I had my sheep for a second." He's like, "Ha, nope, I'm a broke guy in Africa now." He's like, "I'm not
I'm an adventurer now.
yeah, I'm an adventurer now." Yeah, exactly. But it's these little lines that keep doing that. It's really great because I mean, I'm sure people relate to what I'm talking about. It's like this isn't me anymore, but you're not sad about it. That's why he said that because it's not a despair thing. Because you still are always the same person you were. You just don't engage in certain behaviors anymore because of the way you see the world. It doesn't mean the same to you
Mhm.
anymore, so you stop doing it. But you're still that same person.
Yeah. So when he had the sheep, something you said just triggered something. He changed. He when he had the sheep, he was in a certain point of view, and so when he woke up and realized he didn't have, well, when he was in the mode of self-deprecating sadness or whatever, he was still in the mode of I have the sheep instead of being in adventure mode. So when he finally wakes up and says, "Oh, I don't have my sheep. Oops, I forgot." He's like, "Oh no, I'm happy because I'm an adventurer now." He doesn't have the sheep anymore. He has a new point of view. He doesn't have to still be in the point of view of, "Oh, I have sheep." Right?
Exactly. He can let it go and he doesn't even have to be sad about it. It's just the
Yeah.
way it works. It's like waking up from a dream. I listened
And
to some of that
realizing,
book last night, by the way. I don't want to derail this whole podcast. But anyway, it's like waking up from a dream. And I don't know if you guys get this feeling when you wake up, but it's like you're having to remember where you are again and who you were and all this stuff, right?
"Oh yeah."
And that's I feel like what is it's like because when you do wake up sometimes after this, when you're coming online, sometimes you'll be like, oh yeah, that's not me anymore. Like, oh yeah, I gotta meditate now or whatever it is. It's very interesting. And like I said, when you get around other people, they treat you like that old version of yourself. And that's really where the ups and downs come because that's what self work's all about. It's about figuring out how to deal with that and deal with people and all this stuff. That's why a lot of people want to run away and become hermits and hide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
do it, I know. But as you progress in this, like I said, nothing is constant. So my point of view constantly changes. And now I realize that I could be around people and their point of view doesn't matter and what they think about me doesn't matter at all. I could just like, great, you're right, I'm a jerk, or great, you're right, I'm the best. Either way, it's like, you're right, I'm the best. You're right, I'm an asshole. Because and anywhere along that spectrum, I could display behavior that would make somebody say one of those things. So I'm just like, they're right. What am I gonna do? There's nothing wrong with it. It's like Eminem, right?
Nothing
I
wrong.
am whatever you say I am, and if I wasn't, you know, yeah. Anyway, so what'd you say?
I said, "There ain't nothing wrong."
Yeah.
I think that was from if I'm not mistaken. I I forgot. It was an artist and he's being interviewed. I think it was James Brown. He was being
Oh,
interviewed by this lady and she's asking him about all these things about him, just like some negative behaviors that he was, you know, uh being accused of or whatever. And she's like, "What are you gonna do about it?" or whatever. And he's like, "Ain't nothing wrong."
yeah. He's like, I'm James Brown. I'm just gonna keep making music that makes people dance, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, some of these, a lot of these people figure it out. I think famous people or people who are talented artists and stuff, it's passed down in their family. But this really
Well,
is, you know,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, in fairness, I think he was like just trying to hide
Oh,
his
James
stuff.
Brown. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure he was.
But anyway, we can keep reading. You froze. Shoot. You froze. So,
Oh no. I was trying to do James Brown. Bump, 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 bump.
oh, okay.
Get up, get on up.
Yeah.
I mean, what did people think? Like, it's like if a rapper had like it's like, yeah, he's talking about, all right. It's like, how dare James Brown have it's like, what? He makes music. Like, what's he supposed to do? I mean, I'm not saying that everybody that makes music and lives off it has to party, but if they do, it's like, yeah, what did you think they were gonna do? They've been doing it since they were kids. Anyway, see, that's what we do. We don't judge here on the Oversharing show. You know. All right, let's get back into this. James Brown, he's
I think it was him. I mix people up
yeah,
sometimes. So,
a lot of talent, that guy.
all right, we were talking about that he, instead of being sad, he was happy. So, he no longer had to seek out food and water for the sheep. He could go in search of his treasure instead. He had not he had not a cent in his pocket, but he had faith. He had decided the night before that he would be as much an adventurer as the ones he had admired in books. He walked slowly through the market. The merchants were assembling their stalls. And the boy helped a candy seller to do this, to do his. The candy seller had a smile on his face. He was happy, aware of what his life was about and ready to begin a day's work. His smile reminded the boy of the old man, the mysterious old king he had met. This candy merchant isn't making candy so that later he can travel or marry a shopkeeper's daughter. He's doing it because it's what he wants to do, thought the boy. He realized that he could do the same thing the old man had done, sense whether a person was near or far from his personal legend, just by looking at them. Just by looking at them. It's easy, and yet I've never done it before, he thought. When the stall was assembled, the candy seller offered the boy the first sweet he had made for the day. The boy thanked him, ate it, and went on his way. When he had gone only a short distance, he realized that while they were erecting the stall, one of them had spoken Arabic and the other Spanish, and they had understood each other perfectly well. There must be a language that doesn't depend on words, the boy thought. I've already had that experience with my sheep, and now it's happening with people. I love that.
Yeah,
Can we go back
I want to.
to
What's up?
can we go back? Oh, you can do that. I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
Good.
I was gonna talk to. I'm gonna start. Yeah, here it is. So, I love it because the candy seller, right? The candy seller, is he like some spiritual guru sitting on a fucking mountain thinking that he knows the way and that your way is fucking wrong and you got to drink your own piss or whatever?
Then you
No,
better be a candy maker too, or else,
he's
because
just
that's what
being a
everybody
happy
should do.
candy man, right? And because he's a happy candy maker, he's setting this example for this kid, right? I think this might be something that's glossed over. And this is what we always try to tell people here on the show is like you can't always tell people that, maybe Lee Harvey Oswald didn't kill Kennedy and you can't open them up to truth. But what you could do is live your own truth and be an example. And because of that, you have no idea what it's going to do. The candy seller is probably just having a great day because he loves making and selling candy. And his joy and excitement was contagious and it leaked into the boy because of it, right? And
Yeah,
because
he
of
didn't
that,
intend to influence the boy. He was just being himself.
exactly. So I just wanted to highlight that because, that's important.
My
Oh,
my
look at
my
you.
Urim and Thummim stones.
Nice. Thumbim, that's it. Orm and Thumbim. I've been looking around myself, but I will trying to get the right pair. I actually have a really nice black one. I just don't know. I might get another set. Who knows? I have so many crystals. Anyway,
You can keep reading. My throat's feeling weird. That's why I keep
okay.
cracking and stuff.
Crackin' lackin'. All right.
Crackle lacking.
There we go. Okay. La la. He was learning a lot of things. Oh, because I've already had that experience with my sheep, and now it's happening with people. Okay. Yes, you read that right. He was learning a lot of new things. Some of them were things that he had already experienced and weren't really new, but he had never perceived before, and he hadn't perceived them because he had become accustomed to them. That's so important, right?
Mm.
That's why being in the present moment and even looking at the simplest tasks that you do or your reactions to things. Sometimes I just say things and I'm like, why did I even say that? Like, what? Who was that? He realized if I can learn to understand this language without words, I can learn to understand the world.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, could it be? Relaxed and unhurried, he resolved that he would walk through the narrow streets of Tangier, only in that way, oh, excuse me, would he be able to read the omens. He knew it would require a lot of patience, but shepherds know all about patience. Once again, he saw that in the strange land, he was applying the same lessons he had learned with his sheep. All things are one, the old man had said.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, first being in the present moment, right? It's about like being in the present moment and not missing things. The omens, the signs that are right there in front of you that are trying to tell you things. And then the previous things, it really is. That's why this life, it's like deja vu and all these patterns and cycles. We learn these things. Like Sharon learned all about the Bible and she was thinking that God, she had this whole different view And then she came across some other stuff and she thought she had to throw all that knowledge away. And then later she's like, oh, I have all this Bible knowledge that comes in so handy on my podcast. I could just quote things that line up, you know. And that's same thing with me. I worked on things like when I was in the Marines, I learned things, and now I'm always building on these lessons. And at the time, you know, now it's different, but back then I'm always like, oh, this is the way to be always and live. You know, you're like, this is it. And then you learn it and you're like, well, maybe not. But you're
Hmm,
always building
maybe
on
there's
it.
more.
Yeah. And if you could see that behind you, the reason why I talked about all that was because if you could see that behind you and all the patterns, and if you feel stuck right now in life, it's another positive thing you could say to yourself is, well, maybe whatever I'm doing now, even if I'm suffering, it's going to help me later. You know, I'm going to, whatever I'm doing. It's just like being an apprentice. And I think that's why this is such a great analogy of the alchemist. And they show an alchemist with a master in that way. Well, not yet, but you'll see it because any skill that you learn, you have an apprentice that you could start to kind of learn from. And like a blacksmith, you know, you start off and you're gonna fill buckets of water and you're gonna do all the carrying of stuff and you're gonna, it's
Dirty
just like
work.
DJing. Yeah, you're gonna set up all the stuff and do all the dirty work and have to get there early and play, and then the guy who's good shows up when it gets busy and takes all the credit. You know what I mean? Like these are how, and then as you learn, then you could start to craft and do your own thing. And it's the same way we're working on yourself, I feel, you know?
Cosmic Joe just showed up in the chat. It's funny you were just talking about setting up DJ stuff.
Yeah, there it is. He knows all about it. What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody in the chat, by the way? We haven't said Tony, Blue, Kachina. Oh, Nigel. I didn't even see he was there. Sorry. I hope you're still in there. What's up, Nige? Quiet Sparky Bear. What up, yo? All right.
PK
Yeah.
and
So,
Cody.
oh, what's up, Cody? Did I not see him? Oh, yeah. PK and Cody. Alrighty. Um, so what was I saying? Yeah. All is one. That's crazy, the pattern thing. So, just to finish up my point really is if you're in despair now and you don't really know what's going on and you're doing something, you could just say to yourself, hey, maybe what I'm doing now is going to help me in the future, you know, and I could look back on these times and be like, these were the good old days when I was really learning my craft. It's funny how that happens. You think you're just going along with a fun hobby or whatever it is doing something and then you realize you can make a living out of it or whatever. So interesting. But that's why there's really no reason to be in despair.
Yes,
All
indeed.
right. The crystal merchant awoke with the day and felt the same anxiety that he felt every morning. He had been in the same place for 30 years, a shop at the top of the hilly street where few customers passed. Now it was too late to change anything. The only thing he had ever learned to do was to buy and sell crystal glassware. There had been a time when many people knew of his shop, Arab merchants, French and English geologists, German soldiers who were always well-heeled. Uh,
What
We're
does
always
that
well
mean?
heeled. What's
Mm,
that mean? You know?
yeah. I mean, should I look it up?
What are we trying to say about the Germans, everybody? I mean, we could, I guess. I mean, while I'm reading, if maybe well dressed. I don't know. In those,
Well off, wealthy, rich.
German soldiers who were always well heeled. Yeah, those Germans, man.
So they
They
could
knew,
buy all his material, all his stuff from his
yeah, they knew
store.
what they were about. It seems right. Anyway, wait till later, everybody. They're really not gonna like one guy that's German, or not even he's Austrian. Everyone's gonna hate him. In those days, it had. Let's see, well-heeled Germans. Where were we? Yes, in those days, it had been wonderful to be selling crystal, and he had thought how he would become rich and have beautiful women at his side as he grew older. So you could see here, it's the material, right? He's focused so heavily on just material possessions.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's objectifying women, of course, you know. I'll have beautiful women. But as time passed, Tangier had changed. The nearby city of Situa,
Kyoto?
Kuta,
Sota?
had grown faster than Tangier, and business had fallen off. Neighbors moved away, and there remained only a few small shops on the hill, and no one was going to climb the hill just to browse through a few small shops. But the crystal merchant had no choice. He had lived 30 years of his life buying and selling crystal pieces, and now it was too late to do anything else. This also reminds me of people when you start to change and the people around you don't want to change and they say these same exact things. They're like, this is just me. This is how I am. Sorry, Brandon. I have to go to the bar tonight and look for whores. I can't go hiking with you. No, it's just that never really happened. I'm just trying to be funny, everybody. But it does happen, all right. You start the things that you want to do start to change and maybe even start talking about self-healing to be or about this stuff or changing their lifestyle or not drinking fluoride in your water or whatever it is. And what do you always come across a lot of times? Come across? Here it is. Boom. It was too late to do anything else. What am I gonna do?
Hmm.
This is what I've been
What are
doing my
you
whole
gonna
life.
do about it?
I've been eating bread my whole life. I gotta keep eating bread.
P.S. That word is pronounced Ciuta, I guess,
Ciuta.
or Suta, something like that.
Ciuta. Ciuta. Like Utah. Ciuta.
Hmm.
He spent the entire morning observing the infrequent comings and goings in the street. He had done this for years and knew the schedule of everyone who passed. So this is another, right? He thinks he knows it all. This is like somebody with
Mm.
certainty. I've seen it all, know it all. It's nothing's ever changed. But just before lunchtime, a boy stopped in front of the shop. He was dressed normally, but the practiced eyes of the crystal merchant could see that the boy had no money to spend. Nevertheless, the merchant decided to delay his lunch for a few minutes until the boy moved on. A card hanging in the doorway announced that several languages were spoken in the shop. The boy saw a man appear behind the counter. I can clean up those glasses in the window if you want, said the boy. The way they look now, nobody's gonna want to buy them. The
I
man
wonder
looked
what
at
language
him.
he said that in Spanish.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
As he said, he speaks all. The man looked at him without responding. In exchange, you can give me something to eat. The man still said nothing. The boy sensed that he was going to have to make a decision. In his pouch, he had his jacket and certainly wasn't going to need it in the desert. Taking out the jacket, he began to clean the glasses. Clean the glasses. In half an hour, he had cleaned all the glasses in the window, and as he was doing so, two customers had entered the shop and bought some crystal. Isn't it
Hmm.
funny how
Mm.
excitement gets other people
Omens.
interested?
Omens.
When I worked at a car lot, the guy that was the manager would make us put balloons out every day and it works. I'm like, why are we putting out balloons? He's like, I don't know why, but
But it
people love
works.
balloons. And
Yes.
we always ask people, why'd you come in today? Did you get referred? Did you see an ad? And like people would be like, I saw the balloons. I don't know.
That's freaking
I
hilarious.
didn't even need a car. I just saw balloons. So yeah.
That's
Anyway.
funny.
When he had completed the cleaning, he asked the man for something to eat. Let's go and have some lunch, said the crystal merchant. Bum, bum, bum.
Hmm.
The three cups. There you go. The three of cups.
Oh, nice.
Interesting. Three
Wait,
cups is like
yeah, Three of
the
Cups.
three ladies dancing. Here
Yes.
we can
Like
even pull it up.
camaraderie and joy and like feast time, feasting and um having a good time together with people, friends, family, etc.
Yeah, the three. It's like a birth, a celebration. Uh, and for him, love the symbolism of the cups here. It's like a crystal shop with cups. It
Crystals.
crystal glass, it's like all these omens, right?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
can read for a little bit too.
Okay.
I'll try.
I'll leave the cups there for now, but go ahead. You can.
Yeah, yeah. He put a sign on the door and they went to a small cafe nearby. As they sat down at the only table in the place, the crystal merchant laughed. You didn't have to do any cleaning, he said. The Quran requires me to feed a hungry person. Well, then, why did you let me do it? The boy asked. Because the crystal was dirty, and both you and I needed to cleanse our minds of negative thoughts. Well, can we just stop there for a second
Yeah.
and chat about that? Um, wow, you and I needed to cleanse our minds of negative thoughts. what was the boy thinking that was like negative? Oh, I'm not going to have any food. I'm just, I don't have anything. I need to help this man. And the man's thinking, oh, I've been this crystal merchant and I really had a personal legend that I wanted to fulfill, but I haven't done it. And I'm just old and I have nothing and blah, blah, blah. And this crystal shop isn't going anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And it was like the boy cleaning brought people into the shop. And the man was like, whoa, maybe something could change. Maybe things could change. And his thoughts maybe were cleansed by that. And the boy clean.
Maybe
Go
I
ahead.
was wrong. You thought. Go
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good call. And the boy maybe was like, you know what? I I'm gonna do what I can. I'm gonna help this guy clean this up, and maybe it will be a good thing, and I'll get some food, and I'll just, go on my merry way to do whatever I got to do, just to keep doing this.
Sacrificing his jacket, which is something he needed in his old life, right? It's another symbol there. So you never know what you have now, what kind of possession, what even kind of knowledge that you have that could be applied in a totally different way. Like he had a jacket, he never knew it was going to be used as a rag to clean crystal glasses,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing too. You just keep your mind open. And something else that came to my mind was I think it's they don't mention it here, but it's something you can imply about the culture at the time with the Muslims because they're I'm sure they're super friendly. It's not like the propaganda we learn about the Muslims, right? And I'm sure
And
they're
they are
all
supposed to be, what is it? Like
hospitable.
hosts. Yes,
Yeah,
hospitable. That's the word. Mm-hmm.
right. So they're being and also because he does pray every day if he's a Muslim and all this stuff, he probably is more in the moment. So he instead of telling the guy to get out of there, he's like let in his mind maybe he's thinking,
Let's
let's
just
just
see
see
what
where this
happens.
goes.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Mhm.
God put this person here for me.
Yeah.
So this might not have been able to happen in a land like Spain for him because he knows everyone too well. And if he got broke or whatever, it would have just been a different experience, man.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how all the different religions play into this,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not demonizing any of them, which I love too. That's another lesson
Yeah.
to be learned. He's not demonizing any of the religions here. The author, from my point of view, he's just showing how maybe there's misunderstandings or whatever. But even
He's
the fact
displaying them,
and
and
displaying them.
people's perspectives of them. Like the kid at first was like, they're
Mhm.
infidels, right? Because
Yeah.
that's probably what he heard growing up all his life.
Exactly. And then when you get the candy seller there, that's so great because here's a guy just making candy and selling it, has a great day, and he's just having a great life. And that's what we say, not everybody has to fucking lose their mind and get into this occult shit. Some people could just have a simple, great life where they live the golden rule and things just work out for them and they have a great life and they ascend. Not everyone has to dissect all this stuff. So there's no reason to judge people if they're not into
Yeah.
this or if you just think they're a silly Christian or Muslim, because if it wasn't for them, this guy in our story, he wouldn't have ate earlier in the day and he wouldn't be eating lunch if it wasn't for
Yeah.
people that were, Muslims or whatever.
The other thing I noticed was the crystal was dirty. These are crystal goblets, cups, right? And it needed to be cleansed. He said,
Yeah.
you
How
didn't,
did I
yeah, he
miss
said,
that? Oh my God,
because the
Sharon,
crystal was dirty and both you and I needed to cleanse our minds, cleaning the crystal glass. And then I just thought of this one. I think Jesus says it's not what goes in you that defiles you. Because people are like, oh, you're going to eat food from XYZ. Like, you don't even like do this to the food first or whatever. And he's like, it's not what goes in your mouth that defiles it. It's what comes out of your mouth. Because where is that coming from? It's what comes out of your mouth that defiles you,
genius. No,
right?
that
When
guy
you
Jesus,
start,
let me tell you. That
yeah.
guy Jesus, he said some things. They should really worship that guy. Oh, never mind.
So what needed to be cleansed? The mind needed to be cleansed of the negative thoughts. And
Like
then he, it's portrayed as a cup needing to be cleansed, right? Emotions, thoughts.
Like polishing the mirror, as Ramdas would say,
Mm,
so you can get a better view,
mm,
right? Polish
yeah.
it because, and how do you do that? You're just in the present moment because what's clouding it? Thoughts of the past and the future are clouding your perception of what's actually happening. And if you're not in tune with what's actually happening, you're probably suffering and you're just not accepting things. And, you're not really living life. You're living that symbolic reality. You're one step away. You're always one step away. What was that? I'm trying to think of the movie where anyway, but you're always one step away from life. And when you just dive in, and you experience the real life and you're not concerned as much about what people said things were, and you just experience it to see what it is for yourself. Anyway, just oversharing here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this is a great story. There's so much in there. It's crazy. And I don't even know, who knows if he even planned any of
All
this,
these, yeah, right.
but it's not what's written. It's like what's the unseen, and that's what you get here at the Oversharing Show when we break things down. Anyone could give you the scene, but who can give you the unseen? Am I right?
The symbolism.
The un. All right.
All right, I'll read that part
Oh,
again
yeah.
because it's so profound. Because
Yeah,
the
please do.
crystal was dirty, and both you and I needed to cleanse our minds of negative thoughts. When they had eaten, the merchant turned to the boy and said, I'd like you to work in my shop. 2 customers came in today while you were working, and that's a good omen. People talk a lot about omens, thought the shepherd, but they really don't know what they're saying. Just as I hadn't realized that for so many years, I had been speaking a language without words to my sheep. Do you want to go to work for me? The merchant asked. I can work for the rest of today, the boy answered. I'll work all night until dawn, and I'll clean every piece of crystal in your shop. In return, I need money to get to Egypt tomorrow. The merchant laughed. Even if you cleaned my crystal for an entire year, even if you earned a good commission selling every piece, you would still have to borrow money to get to Egypt. There are thousands of kilometers of desert between here and there. Do you want to pause and talk about this for a second?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm seeing this is another reason why they tell you not to share your dreams with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the crystal merchant, through no fault of his own, he doesn't even realize, but he's just now building all these mental obstacles in the mind of this kid, right? He's like, oh, he's like, you can never get to Egypt.
You'll
And really,
never
what he's
get to
doing is
Egypt.
just projecting, because I'm sure you could probably just get a job as we'll see what happens, but there's ways to get to Egypt, so you could probably just get a job, even on a ship or something as whatever. But anywho,
Or
so
find
you're just
some
getting it through his
way that
limited,
you could, yeah, like people that catch a train and or whatever and just like
oh, like
I don't know,
hobos?
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, like could he be a transient or something and just kind of
a
get there that way
stowaway,
too? A
right?
stowaway or something?
Yeah,
But
or
yeah, there are ways to do things
and I
when
thought
you
about
want
that
to.
too. It's funny that he's choosing to go through the desert, and I'm just like, why didn't he never just? Because you could have probably just bought a ticket there, but then we wouldn't have such a cool story. Could have took a ship there.
Right, right.
Anywho, so let's see,
He's
4:30.
he's
Okay.
kind of discouraging the boy. But that's the thing too, on your journey, on your personal legend journey, you're going to encounter discouragement. And it's what you do in the face of that that counts. I mean, that's obvious, I think.
Yeah, I would say that, they say not to share your ideas and stuff, but if you do happen to share ideas and stuff, just know that when people are talking to you, they're really just talking to themselves. They're really just making up excuses for why they're not a lot of times they're just making up excuses for why they're not following their personal legend. And they're just giving easy outs for you so you can commiserate with them is a lot of times. But there are people are supportive too. I'm not trying to say everyone's terrible, but they don't mean to do it. We probably do it too and don't even know it. So that's why important to be aware when you're sharing future projects and ideas with people. That, and then also,
Hmm.
you kind of get that serotonin or whatever from talking about it that you should
Hmm.
get from doing it. So yes.
Yes. So there's all that you just, you take what we say with a grain of salt and take what works for you. It'll
Exactly.
all work out in the end. It always will
It'll
if you,
all work out. Yeah,
yeah,
failures are important, you
yeah.
know. All right. Uh,
All right. All right. There was a moment of silence so profound that it seemed the city was asleep. No sound from the bazaars, no arguments among the merchants, no men climbing to the towers to chant, no hope, no adventure, no old kings or personal legends, no treasure, and no pyramids. It was as if the world had fallen silent because the boy's soul had, and that's short for had fallen silent. He sat there, staring blankly through the door of the cafe, wishing that he had died and that everything would end forever at that moment. This is like that moment of despair, right? When you're just like,
mhm.
it's never gonna happen. And we've all been there.
We
The
have all been
merchant,
there. The
huh?
dark night of the soul, right?
Mm,
Because this is when he realizes that nothing's going to be the same, and all his dreams he thinks are kind of crushed at the time, right? So,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, we all have been there. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
go back to it. All right. And I could shut off my video. There we go. All right, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Sorry. Okay. You've seen. The
The
merchant
merchant.
looked anxiously at the boy. All the joy he had seen that morning had suddenly disappeared. He's probably thinking, dang it, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, what? It burst his balloon.
He's like, oops. Ugh. All right. I can give you the money you need to get back to your country, my son, said the crystal merchant. And see, some people will like try to be like, oh, oops, sorry. Like, and then maybe encourage you to do something that you did in your past, maybe, or go back to your old ways, right?
Yeah.
And you just, we'll see what happens. The boy said nothing. He got up, adjusted his clothing, and picked up his pouch. I'll work for you, he said. And after another long silence, he added, I need money to buy some sheep.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that is part one. Wow.
all right. Well, I guess we could talk about it a little bit. I like that part at the end because of what you said too. And it's really all these ups and downs, like we were talking about, right? And all these people that you meet along the way. And it really is how you look at it. Because if you look at the story as a whole, especially when I haven't finished it yet, everybody, but I'm sure once we finish it, it's going to be like a delightful, inspiring tale. But now we're at the middle of it. We're right now, it's like Lord of the Rings when everything's going wrong, you know,
Yeah, everything looks bleak.
everything
And
looks bleak.
you
But
see
it's
that in lots of movies too.
but what happened? What did the guy though, right? The king of Salem, he said to him, he's like, I appear when things look the bleakest. He's like, and then he told him, he's like, you won't see me again, like in this
Mm-hmm.
form as a person.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that this King of Salem character left him alone. He could still be appearing in other ways, especially with this crystal merchant
With the
guy,
omens.
because the yeah, with omens, and it's exactly he's controlling omens. Could it be? And the crystal merchant guy was somebody who was at the end of his kind of rope too. He was in despair a little bit about he didn't know what to do and all this stuff.
His
So
crystal shop was not progressing.
they cross paths, so maybe this King of Salem guy is like a wanderer or somebody on a higher plane or whatever, right? And he's causing these people to cross paths and to get exactly what they need at the time. So if you ask the shepherd what he needed at the time, that guy, he would say, I need money to get to Egypt. God's like, no, you don't. You need more lessons to learn here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get you that money, but it's gonna It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
And, you know, in fact, you're going to think that you gave up. And I think it's cool that he's able to give up because it shows that he's not attached to it also.
Mhm.
You know, even though it's like your destiny and your dharma and all this stuff, he's able to let it go. And I think that's why he's able, well, that's why he'd be more able to achieve it if he does, because he is able to let it go
Yeah, that's
in a
another
way.
good point too I
But
hadn't
then
thought of.
also be aware enough to go back after it when it seems to be working in his way. Because right now, he's kind of being Taoist about the situation. He's going with the flow. He's like, I just came across this guy, and according to him, it's impossible to get to Egypt unless you're rich or something. So he's like, I guess I'm never going to get there. So I'm just going to do my best now and get some sheep and, you know, work for this guy. So that's
Yeah.
really how the path is. You never know what you just think you're giving up, but the whole time you're still working on your dharma or your personal legend.
Yeah. And he knows the whole shepherding thing the best. So he thought, well, even if I have to go back to herding sheep, at least I can do that in the meantime. And sometimes you may think, oh, I can go back to my old job, the thing that I used to do, because this isn't working out. And you might think that, but we shall see what happens.
Exactly. But and could it be that his non-attachment to that, him saying it's all right, I'll be fine, and not going into despair is what it was. Because like, you know, we talk about this realm being like a ball busting machine, right? Where it just gives you all these things at the time. Sometimes it's like, why would this happen now? You know, these things happen. So if it is like this ball busting machine, I could see that's what it's gonna do, right? It's gonna take it away from you. And if you hate it, then it's going to keep taking it away. But if you're just like, whatever, then it's going to be like, all right, right. And then
Mm,
that will be whatever it is loses focus. So then that could come back to you probably. And then it's going to try to bust your balls in other ways. And sometimes it tries to bust your balls and distract you in ways that are great and it gives you money and all these things. So if you just stay in this, I don't even want to say positive, right? Because everyone's like, you got to stay positive. But
mm-hmm,
you just stay balanced, right?
mm-hmm.
And look at the situation for really what it is and look at both sides and stay grounded. I think that's really when you could be in the present moment because you're not really worried about the past or the future as much. And then you're going to see these omens and they're going to pop up because, again, this realm is just going to try to mess with you. It wants your attention. If you just sit and meditate for hours, you're going to come up with the best ideas. Things, I mean, you might even get someone knocking on your door, you know, because this realm really needs your attention and it wants it. So if you withhold it and keep
The
it for yourself,
universe conspires to
the
help you.
universe will conspire to help you because I feel like this is my and I'm just coming across this now I'm kind of spitballing or whatever, but you know, what if is what if you refuse to put your attention on anything and the universe needs to get your attention. This could even be like a premise for a movie or something. Like the universe needs to get your attention. So you just sit and meditate all day. And I'm not saying you should do this, right? But if you don't let anything bother you or get your attention, it's going to keep throwing things at you until it finds something that does. And the thing it throws could be what you're looking for, right? Is this the secret to manifesting things? You know, it could be. I think that's kind of what people talk about, right? It's like you wait on for what you want to give your attention to instead of giving your attention to everything. And then I think that's what happens. The universe has to conspire to give you what you want because it needs your attention, right? So it's like, what do we got to do? We got to keep doing it. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And in that way, you are an adventurer. You know, you're just like, what can I do with this situation now? And the more that you do that, the more you rely on it, the less opinions of other people really start to matter. And I think that's what sways people, and that's how we get caught in these reality tunnels. And that's really what like cults are all about and culture and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with any of these things per se, but it as long as you're conscious and you know that you're part of a reality tunnel and you're kind of creating a reality for, you know, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, whatever, because you're like a super fan of his. So you're telling everybody about his movies or whatever, and you're just following everything, and you're going to see him again, you know, getting his autograph, following him on Twitter and all this stuff. If that's what you're doing, you're creating part of his reality. You're taking your reality and adding it to his, and you're just making a bigger reality tunnel for all those people. And again, there's nothing wrong with this, and we can be part of other reality tunnels. But if you're aware of this and you keep your attention for yourself and your magic and your creation all and all this stuff for yourself, then you are just creating your own tunnel. And people then will come in and start to either be part of your tunnel, there's other ways to do it. But I think this is also kind of how black magic works too. You could do it in a negative way, and that's how people start cults and stuff. And they might not even realize, they're doing it, but that's what happens. So you gotta obviously be careful with this stuff, and that's why we always give the disclaimer to not worship us, the Oversharing Show people in the future. Take us off that pedestal. We know you're worshiping us. Just put it into work in your own life, really, is what I'm saying. So that was a long spiel, but I think I'm onto something here.
We're all brothers and sisters here. We don't have a
Yeah.
hierarchy.
Yeah. Could it be? I just love that concept though of the whole universe conspires if you want something.
Hmm.
And I think maybe the word want you'd have to look at it too because it's all about like the desire and what does it really mean? Like, because I think you can't be attached to it. That's really the other secret because if you're attached to it and you don't get it, guess what? The universe or whatever, it still gets your attention just in a negative way. But I think it doesn't care. It just wants your attention. So it gets your attention because you're focused on it. That's all you can think about. You're like, you're in this cycle. You're not in the present moment. And maybe the people who are in the present moment are the one who gets they're the ones who get the rewards, right? It's just like if you went hiking, you were telling me that story, you went hiking and found those great Apache chairs. If you were just hiking and keeping your head down and not talking to people, you wouldn't have found those treasures, but you were in the moment following the omens. These people, let's talk to them. You were led to a literal treasure.
Yeah. Like
So,
we wouldn't have bumped into them had we not stopped somewhere else before, had we not gotten directions from someone, had we not stopped to download the maps because we had bad service and then we had to, you know, find our way there and almost put the car and truck in four-wheel drive, or, you know what I mean? Because it was kind of a bumpy way to get into it. I mean, we just, oh, it was an omen to bump into them.
yeah, it really was. And it's crazy how this simple text, reading through it and just breaking down based on all the stuff we've learned doing the show and all the stuff we've ever learned. It's like this toolkit we have, right? This symbolism and decoding. And we're just going through this simple text and it's like mind blowing what's in there.
It's
It's really
profound.
crazy. Yeah, profound is a great word. Um, yeah, and the other really profound thing is how it's just echoed in every other religion, or every other belief system. It's kind of like there was just one, and then everyone took and made it their own thing to adapt it. And then after that happened, the people who inherited it decided to fight about it. It's like, no, mine's better. It's cool though. It makes sense. But yeah, I mean, what a great book
Shall I keep reading?
so far. Yeah. Well, what are we at now? Because
We're at like an
hour and a
hour and
half,
40 something.
an hour and 40.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think maybe we should wrap it up then instead of starting part two so we could start with it?
Oh, I see what you mean. It is
Yeah, that's why
part
I was giving
two.
some commentary at the end too. I figure we could, I mean, we could talk for a little longer too. We don't have to just wrap it up, but what do you think? Or we
Yeah,
can,
that's fine. We
okay.
can do that. We can start part two next time.
Yeah, I really want, and it's the thing I've started to notice about books, is especially religious texts when there's like an ending of a part, especially when you're new to this and learning, you always want to jump into the next thing and keep reading and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it needs time to like sink in.
Yeah. Simmer.
Simmer down now. Let me
Yeah.
just see. I think there was something else I wanted to talk about at the end that he said too. Um, it really is just about realizing that good things and bad things are going to happen. You're not the author of this realm, right?
All of it. Yeah.
You're just the author of
your
how
experience.
you feel about your experience. You get to write down how you feel about it as it happens to you in your head, or you get to narrate it if you want. But I think what happens is a lot of people use that power of narration to create the reality, or I'm sorry, in their head to create the reality of the way they want it to be, and they want things to go a certain way to kind of benefit them from an egoic standpoint. And then when that doesn't happen, it just gets shattered, and they go into like despair mode. So when you can make that shift, and I really, I think, like I said, is the key is just the present moment. It's so funny.
Yeah. Tony Coriolis says, "You are the alchemist, author of your own life."
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I don't, when I say you're not the author, I don't mean that you can't do things for yourself. I just mean you're not, you don't get to decide if like who's the president or whatever. Oh, I could talk about this too a little bit. I went to see Aziz Ansari on Sunday night. He's a Indian comedian. A lot of people know who he is. He's pretty famous. And I'm gonna tell you, he was really funny, and I could say he's probably like, a lot of those people are like left leaning or whatever, liberalish,
Mhm.
and you could kind of hear it a little bit, but the way he was being open minded is really refreshing, and I'm excited about it because I feel like that's kind of where it's headed. He was just saying things like he was talking about Trump, and he's like, listen, I know. And the funniest thing he did was like, all right, Trump. And he's like, I know. He's like, even the voice inside my head is like, no, man, why do you got, he's going so good. You got to bring up politics. I was like, why do you got to do it? And he's just like, he goes,
Because it's so
I don't want to,
polarizing.
yeah, it's so polarizing. But he worked it really well because he made it funny. And this is what I think, Keans, if you're out there, this is what you should do. Make it fucking funny. And what he did was, he's like, we've never had a president like Donald Trump. He's like, I saw somebody the other day with a shirt that said Trump AF. He's like,
That's
nobody,
hilarious.
he's like, nobody should like the president that much. He's like, you never had
Jeez.
shirts with people like that said like Eisenhower AF. And then he brought up the whole thing where I forget what president it was, helped the CIA overthrow a government in like Central America for the United Fruit Company for like bananas or whatever. It's like, yeah, so he's so the guy's definitely he's into a little conspiracy, right? Aziz. So he talked about that and he goes, yeah, but he's like, they did that. He's like, but they kept it quiet. He's like, Trump, he's like, he would just tell everybody. And he's like, and his supporters are like, these are great. He's like, these are the best bananas. He's like, we're gonna have bananas flow. So he was doing an impersonation and he's talking about a silly thing. And everybody could laugh. Trump supporters and people who hate Trump.
Yeah,
Good for you, Aziz,
exactly. Exactly.
I mean, he said a couple things like he was talking about somebody he knew was a doctor and that was Indian or something about getting an office. It's so hard. He's like, white people, he's like, they just give you offices. And me and Elizabeth looked at each other like, nobody gave me a fucking office, dude. Like, what? But whatever. You know, I get sometimes when you're in these bubbles,
Circles,
yeah, you don't realize. Yeah, but it's cool. He was able to keep it all, neutral. It was cool. What else he said about
circles and
Trump?
bubbles
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, the bubbles in that's what we're talking about, these reality tunnels. Like I was talking about before, and when you get everyone's in their own, and I feel like that's how some people can experience this place as a sphere. And that's how some people can experience it as a
It's a
simulation
sphere of influence.
or
Influence.
as a flat, yeah, like, maybe it isn't a sphere and that's just all garbage and people said, I don't know. But what I'm saying
It's a
is,
torus field, okay?
yeah, so it's gonna look like whatever you want it to look like when you look at it, because it's fucking magic and we're energy, man. This isn't even real. What are you talking about? Anyway,
I
so
know.
yeah, uh, but yeah, the
Oh,
the reality tunnel thing. I don't remember where I was going with that, but anyway, this has been a really fun episode.
so I was going to comment earlier that there was a movie I recently watched with Cody. He was like, "Hey, let's watch this movie. I'd never seen it before." Um, it's called The Lookout. I don't know if you have seen it or heard about it, but it's about this guy, and maybe I'll have spoilers in here. So just sorry. Just sorry, not sorry.
The butler did it. All right, everybody. No, I'm sorry. Okay.
So, but yeah, it was kind of at first I didn't want to watch it because I tend to like not want to watch stuff that's like sounds like bad or negative or like
Yeah,
anyway. The
yeah.
the guy was in the movie, the protagonist, he was in a sort of accident, and at some point he um is in a situation where he doesn't remember things. He has like not good memory because of the accident. And so he is prone to be in situations where he could easily be influenced and whatnot. And he's put through all these, you know, tests and trials. And some of the stuff that made me think of that movie was when people are like, "Oh, you'll never do that," or "You can't, you'll never be able to do that because your brain doesn't work right and you can't remember stuff and your memory's bad and XYZ." Um
Excuse me.
and so maybe you should do this instead, and this, this negative thing will, bring you all this money in this way that you can at least live a better life. And even, because right now you suck and you're poor and whatever, right? And if you do this bad thing, you'll have money at least,
At
then you can do
least.
whatever you want. And it's like that, all the stuff we just talked about with all the negative thoughts and the people that might come into your life to say, "Oh, you'll never do that," that made me think of that movie. And I didn't give anything away, really, did I? So you can go watch it, and if you like it, if you like
You
the
know,
concept of the story.
I love that you brought that up. It's such a great way because you can even look at it as the voices inside your own head, and it could, because those voices are just echoed most times
Mm-hmm.
from when we're growing up. We hear these things,
Mm-hmm.
and it reminds me of this thought I had yesterday. Maybe it was when I was walking through the woods. Maybe we even talked about it in our meeting the other day, but yesterday. But it's kind of like the Truman Show, right? We're in the Truman Show. And it even reminds me of, I think I've talked about this before, and I had since watched this episode now. So there's an episode of South Park that it's called Canceled, I think is the name of it. And the premise is they find out that Earth is a reality TV show. And they take that was started
Dude,
like thousands of years ago, where they took
dude,
species from everywhere. Okay, it gets even better.
dude, keep going.
So they took species from everywhere. They're like, there's people and, black people and Jews and deer. And, everyone's like, whoa, So they find out and they want to cancel the show because people found out. So they're going to cancel. It's like the premise. And, but everybody watches it. And it reminds me like that of the Truman Show as well. So what if we're in this realm? And I know that like Archaics is kind of talking about this. Sharon was talking about this with Robert, what's his name?
Monroe's
Robert Monroe's
books.
work, where we're in this, say, realm, or we're having this experience, right? So say we're like playing a video game or it's a simulation. We'll look at it like how Archaics looks at it, right? Like that guy. So he's saying that after this, people from all over are going to be like, whoa, you lived through that one. Like that was the one, that was the hard one. And not only did you live through it, but you made it through. You
You
didn't let it get to
overcame.
you. You overcame it. You got over your fear, basically, is
Yeah.
what it is, right? And you persisted. So what if
You're
there
not
are
still living the loop of like reincarnation loop of just like going back and going back, like
exactly.
mindlessly going back into the
You
reality
got
channel.
through the front, like, whoa, dude, you got the high score. You could put your name up
Mm-hmm.
at top or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if that's the case, you can look at it, you can even look at this as your higher self or whoever it is, but there's people or entities or energy, or even if it's you, cheering for you right now. And every time you think you fuck up, they're just like they're watching you and be like, "Oh, he'll get over this. It's not even a big deal." Like there's people doing way worse or whatever it is. Oh, what's up, Kathleen? How's it going? And um, I know she agrees with this stuff. And you could just picture, there's people cheering for you. It's like the Truman Show, right? You have this audience that you can't exactly access through like a physical means, right? But you could feel that they're there. You get that feeling. And anytime you're in despair, you just think of that. Like, I don't, there's all these people cheering for me. We could do this. They know I can do it, And if you do
Your
do it, just
higher
think about,
self is cheering for you.
yeah, really, that's what it could be, right? Your higher self, even. And I think that's an important thing to think about. most people, and I know I'm included, I just have a lot of negative thoughts. Well, not negative, that's a bad. I just have negative thoughts all day. I have this voice in my head that'll try to discourage me from things. I'll just say that, and really, it's just trying to keep me safe. If I think about it, and sometimes I
Yeah,
don't
in
need to be
that
kept
comfort
safe, and I
zone, in
just let
that southern comfort.
exactly way deep down south.
Yeah.
Anyway,
In the lower
yeah.
chakras,
So
you know?
yeah, yeah, the lower chakras exactly. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind, everybody, as you're running throughout your day. Like, there's people cheering for you. You're going to make it through, and your experiences are going to be needed for what's to come. And I feel like you can picture it any way. You could picture yourself, like training for some other experience where you're going to be like the badass, like SEAL Team 6 or whatever, like the elite, where you go in there and you're just like, man, this is all cool.
And for the training, you need to keep an open mind because you don't know what's coming. You don't know what's
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And like Brandon was saying, that I mentioned those books that Robert Monroe has written and all the work that he's done, um, is just it just it's very mind opening. Very it I won't say too much because I think we're gonna do a show on it at some point. But
Yeah. Yeah, it is very thought-provoking, to say the least. It brings a lot together, as far as anything from near-death experience to dreams to what this realm could be, and
mm-hmm.
I like that idea because I've heard it from different people in different ways, but it all kind of they're saying the same thing like we say about religion, kind of says the same thing if we're really really looking at it. I feel like, oh yeah, Kathleen, she must know him. Robert Monroe. Yeah, I'm listening to his books now, and Sharon's been reading them. So anyway, I feel like that's more of the case of what this could be. Like we're here to overcome our fear, and there really is
It
nothing
is. It's about
other than,
overcoming fear. It
yeah,
absolutely
there's
boils
nothing,
down to that. You're breaking
just
up a
our
little.
perception. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I felt like I was, so
Yeah,
it's
but
like
it
they say
is
there's
our
nothing
perception. Go ahead.
nothing to fear but fear itself. It's kind of like that thing. Uh, but the secret is you really have to believe it, right? Like, and that's why I feel like this works off of belief because you could talk about it all day and say you're going to do it, and if you don't really believe and you still have these fears, I feel like they cause you to make these decisions that are going to not allow you to manifest what you want, even
Yeah.
that way. Yeah,
It's
so
like the stuff we used to talk about that Neville Goddard talks about. It's you you use your imagination to know that it already exists because we're only experiencing a space and time because we live in this 3D illusion, right? But everything already exists. So it is always possible.
everything is, yeah, exactly.
As
Kathleen says,
ridiculous as it sounds, as crazy
"Yeah,
nutcase as it sounds, it is.
it is. We just can't perceive it from our limited viewpoint. That's why it's a mystery. And Kathleen says, I'm looking him up actually right now. Were you
Robert
looking him up
Monroe.
because we said so, or were you already
I
looking
think
him up?
she I think maybe because she heard his name and she's
Okay, I'm just saying. All right. Because that'd be crazy if you were already looking into him and then,
oh, okay, but I don't know. She can't
yeah,
answer
yeah.
that. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah, yeah. I just wanted
assuming
to clarify.
from what she said.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll check it out. Yes, very interesting stuff. And yeah, I just made it through like the beginning and introduction stuff. And, apparently he was a very successful businessman. So it wasn't like he was some guy that was having
Some
crazy
random
experiences. Like he was like, in the CEO of
he
his
was using
company.
his logic too. He was like, because he was a very intelligent man.
Oh no, don't be sorry. That's what it seemed like anyway, Kathleen. I was just trying to make sure. Yeah. Yeah, and so even the CEO of the company he worked for, he didn't tell anybody he wrote that book, and then the CEO's wife saw it and complimented him on it, and the CEO was like, "Yeah, she's psychic. We talk about business decisions all the time. Like we have our own things we do." He's like, "Oh," so yeah, you
Yeah, he
never
thought he
know.
was going to be ostracized if he told, his business partners that he had written this book. And he kind of just let it go quietly, wrote the book, didn't say anything about it. And then they're all like, "Oh, you wrote this book? Yeah, it's great. My wife loves it."
Exactly. So funny. It was just a projection. He was
Yeah. And
projecting.
that was in the 1950s that he was experiencing these things. And I think he wrote the book in the 60s or 70s or
70s, I
something
think,
like
right? The
that.
early 70s it came out. Oh, he probably wrote it in the 60s or whatever, but yeah.
Or he had all these experiences and then he wrote about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they came out. That's cool though. Yeah, you never know. That's why uh, we're just projecting. We that's why you really can't always trust your own, well, at least your thinking logical mind, right? You can't always that feeling that you get, once you tune into it, there's no uh misunderstanding that, right? You get that feeling, you're like, oh, but sometimes you believe something strongly, and
And it's just like you're believing it because you've been told, or or it just, you think it makes sense or whatever, but it's not from a true deep inner knowing necessarily.
exactly. Well,
Anyway,
I think we could wrap this up. What do you think? That we did a pretty good,
I think so too.
about almost 2 hours, close enough. All right,
Hmm.
cool. Well, like I said, I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like every episode now we just make these connections and we simplify it further because all this stuff we're talking about is nothing new. There is nothing new under the sun, and we probably have been talking about all this stuff over these past few years, but it's just me. It means different things now. Like I could
We're
see it
putting things together,
putting things together. Yeah. So
making connections.
amazing. Well,
Indeed.
shout out to the chat. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Kathleen, thank you for coming in at the end. Tony, we always love to have you come in here and give us your little nuggets. And Joe, thank you for coming. What's up? Cody, good to see you. Blue, good as always. PK, Nigel, hope you heard me here tell you hello. We haven't seen you in a while. And QSB, as always. Yeah. So remember, everybody, the best way to support us is to be here every Thursday when we go live or premiere our shows. Hang out in the chat, tell us what you think, and be cool. That's the rule because Sharon will kick you out faster than you can even blink. Or I will. Anyway,
Yeah, we
yeah,
don't we don't seem to have any more of
no, we
those
never. We That's
uh
our magical power. We just bore people until they're like these guys are boring and corny, and then the real true oversharenites know the knowledge is hidden in there.
yeah. But I'm also talking about people who end up like whining about how their lives suck.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't
they
get
stay.
those anymore.
Yeah, it's because the secret, everybody, is if your life sucks and you're complaining about it, is you don't realize everybody else life sucks too in their own way. Like they could see, they're like, yeah, my life sucks too, dude. Like, but I'm figuring it out. So
Yeah, kind of like the boy, the shepherd boy in the book we're reading. He could have been thinking when he woke up in that little square plaza that, his life sucked, but then he thought, "Oh, I don't have sheep anymore. I'm on an adventure and I'm happy about it."
yeah, because there was something freeing about that. He had that responsibility for all the sheep. So if he didn't release them, there was no way he could have ever did what he did. And if he wasn't dirt broke, there was no way he would have ever helped that candy seller or that crystal glass maker. So
Mm-hmm.
he might have ended up halfway in the desert and got beaten up and taken for his money there.
Yeah.
So you never know. And that's why he just keeps a positive thing and he just follows the omens instead of going home and all that stuff. Anyway, oversharing nights. Yeah,
Absolument.
that's an old one, Kathleen. We were trying to come up. We were calling people different things. I was calling them slaves, our followers. We usually just send.
We means he.
we were trying to come up with different things. I was calling them slaves. But we settled on followers or viewers, and over Sharonites. Anyway, yeah, so more laws, more problems.com. That's the website. Several ways to support us there. So check that out. If you're getting some value, give us some love. And like I said, every Thursday we're here. Hang out, subscribe, like the videos if you're into it, share it around, overshare it. And yeah, just have a great weekend. Just don't be a victim. And if you are listening to our voices and you choose once in your life to not be a victim, we win. So thank you guys. It's the best pyramid scheme ever.
We all
There's the
win.
pyramid right there. Like if we tell you not to be a victim and then you're not a victim because of it, we win.
It's the
And
great
then you could
pyramid
sign other
scheme.
people up too. And there's no money. You just get omens. Just keep pouring in.
Yeah, maybe it is in the form of omens. Maybe that's the reward. The great
Ah,
pyramid scheme is dished out in omens, or your reward is dished out in omens, or whatever.
your reward is dished out in omens. I love it. And time for a little. We should do a little crystal show and tell everything. Here you go, everybody. Here's a.
I just have the same ones. Let's see. I
I
have
know
these
it
other
doesn't
little,
matter. We could show the same
let's
ones
see.
over and over again. They're great.
I have a
Yeah.
bunch of like little quartz
Here it
here.
is, everybody. Your
I
moment
have a
of.
rhodonite.
Oh, that's a cool piece of rhodonite.
Yeah, Cody got me this one when we
Yeah, I
first
remember
met.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cody knows how to get them gifts. This is I might have showed this one before, but it's cool. It's calcite, I believe, but it's like a clamshell. That was
This is
basically
the one you gave Cody.
oh,
It's something
septarian.
that's, yeah, Septarian. It's found in Arizona,
That's
actually, up
so
in
great.
Jerome area. There's a store that like sells a bunch of these in Jerome.
That's so crazy. And
Yeah.
here's another cool. I put a piece of rope around it, but it's a ruby. A ruby.
And this is a stone that Cody got himself. But I hold all his
Oh.
crystals. It's a zebra jasper, I think.
Oh, zebra jet. We're doing crystal show. We're wrapping up
Something
the
like
show
that.
now, so you're just in time. I love. Most of these crystals were brought to me by her. Or, oh, I have a cool piece of Septarian
I
though.
have,
So a lot of times when you see the Septarian, it's like you have it stumbled, but this is a raw piece of it.
oh
I don't
yeah,
know if
like a geode
so.
type thing, right?
Yeah, so these tendrils are really, it's hard to see, but they're really cool. Looks like a mohawk. Like right here looks like hair almost. It's hard to, anyway.
Can you see this one? It's
Oh,
like
the
a little,
Merkaba?
is a Merkaba? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
rose
rose
crystal.
quartz Merkaba. I got it at a local store.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing, she just asked if we were live. Yeah, we're just doing crystal show and tell at the end.
Oh, Josh, shalomi homies. I love crystals.
Oh, what's up, Josh? Just in time then. You're
Welcome.
just in time. Because I got
Show and
Edgar over
tell.
here. I've showed this one plenty. This is a staple for the show. I used to show someone. So this is Edgar, and everyone's
Allen
like Edgar
Poe.
Allan Poe. I go, no, Edgar's the name
Raven.
of the Raven.
Yeah, the Raven. He was standing on the bust of, or the head of, I just recently heard that episode, or that audio book thing, whatever, of the
Oh,
Raven too. That's funny. I thought of your Raven guy, of your little moonstone
knock, knock,
creature or
knock at the
something.
chamber door.
Yeah.
Nevermore. Oh, that's Road Knight.
Yeah, there's a giant like heart shaped rhodonite that Cody
Oh,
got me.
hold up that square again. Can you see or no?
Oh yes, this little
Look at the square Road Knight that she has. Okay, I'm gonna do this.
it's like a rectangle.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. That's sweet, right? Yeah. Oh, next time you gotta bring show some of those Apache tears that you got.
Oh yeah, I'll have to find them. I mean, I have to go grab them. They're somewhere else. This is carnelian.
Oh yeah. Oh, Carnelian?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. And this one, we went there the other day and they had more pieces of this. I had to run away, but this is what I got for my birthday from my lovely wife. This is
Oh,
selenite, and it looks
wow.
looks like
How
a
is it selenite?
yeah, right? What is it?
Because it's usually like clear.
Gold.
Selenite's very clear.
Yeah. It's golden selenite, and they have other pieces of
Oh,
this. I'm not going to talk about
never
my
heard of
crystal
golden
connections
selenite.
anyway. But the reason I like it, it looks like a duck. Right from the right angle, look, it looks like a duck.
It does. That's funny.
It's got duck energy. Yeah,
This
but
is a
it's
sort of onyx.
you could see right through this. Oh yeah. It's
I
like an
don't
egg.
know. Yeah. I thought onyx was black, but I guess there's other types. It was labeled onyx, but I never looked up like exactly what it is.
A
What?
lot of stones you see at carvings too are onyx. It's all different kind of. But yeah, usually onyx, black onyx is what people are most familiar with. But and then there's sardonyx, which is like onyx and sard. What is it? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, everybody, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I'm trying to see if there's anything else cool here I have. I showed the Buddha already. All right, well, tune in next week and we'll probably show you some more cool things, everybody. Well, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing,
Oh yeah, then you totally stop over Karen.
that's
D
right.
Cody said sardine and onyx in the.
What is that? Oh, sardonyx. Oh my
He said it's a
gosh.
sardine and
That's
onyx. Sorry, that's why it threw me off because I was looking at that. Great
ah,
minds think alike.
that's funny.
Oh yeah, Summer Station. What's up? Sending love. I've
Oh,
been missing y'all. We'll have
welcome.
to catch up the replay. Yeah,
See?
let us know. Leave some comments and hang out here on Thursdays. This series we finished the Dow, and then this series we're doing is great. So
Yeah.
yeah, check it out. All right,
I'm
so we are.
excited for new episodes.
Yeah. So yeah, you totally stop over Karen. And
Mm.
remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
We know that you know what to do
That's right.
in your own
So
life.
just do whatever feels right and don't blame us. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend and we'll see you next week. Take care. Ciao.